There's a moment just before kickoff when the roar of the crowd seems to fold inward on itself. A man stands near the center circle with his hands on his hips, looking at nothing in particular. He's small. He's older than nearly everyone around him. And the number 10 on his back has been there so long that to a whole generation of fans, it no longer reads as a number E, it reads as a name. He's about to walk into the one thing in football that history almost never allows a person to have twice. That man is 38, and he turns 39 on the 24th of June, right in the middle of this tournament. He's at his 6th World Cup, a number only one other footballer who ever lived has matched. He has said out loud that this is the last one. And he's carrying something heavier than a captain's armband because Argentina won the World Cup in 2022, and now they've come back to do the rarest thing a champion can attempt: keep it. When people see him, almost all of them reach for the same question. Can he still do it at his age? Look at the legs that used to leave defenders clutching at air, and you wonder how many miles are left in them. The pundits lean into their microphones and talk about the kilometers in a 38-year-old's body. They're not foolish to wonder either. One major outlet put it plainly before the tournament, saying he's far from the force he was in 2022, and there's an honest line of thinking that Argentina lean on him too much, that a man past his physical peak simply cannot drag a nation through a month of knockout football. So you find yourself nodding along, because it feels like common sense. The whole drama gets squeezed into one tidy shape: the great old man, one last dance, will the body hold up? But I'd like to show you something that quietly takes that frame apart, because if age were the only problem here, you could solve it on a whiteboard. You'd rest him in the group stage, you'd build the team around younger legs, and Argentina genuinely have them, with forwards like Lautaro Martinez and Julian Alvarez who can hurt anyone alive, and you'd lighten his load until the maths worked. If age were the real obstacle, careful management would beat it. The trouble is that age isn't the real obstacle. The thing standing in Argentina's way has crushed teams that were young. It has crushed teams in their absolute prime, stacked with players at the height of their powers, not a single tired hamstring anywhere in the building, and it crushed them anyway. So let me set Messi aside for a moment and ask a better question. Why is it that the champions of the world, any champions of any age, almost never manage to win the thing a second time? Here is the number that ought to stop you cold. No country has won back-to-back World Cups since Brazil did it in 1958 and 1962. That isn't a rounding error or a quirk of phrasing. In the entire history of the tournament, it has happened exactly twice. Italy in 1934 and 1938, then Brazil, and not once in the 60-plus years since. Think of everyone who has passed through that gap. Brazil with Ronaldo and Ronaldinho. France with Zidane, and then France again, who reached the final in 2022 and lost it to this very Argentina. Spain in their tiki-taka pomp. Germany's machine in 2014. Every one of them won a World Cup, and not one of them could win the next. When something fails that reliably across that many teams and that many eras, it stops being misfortune. Misfortune doesn't keep a 64-year ledger. What you're looking at isn't a string of unlucky champions. It's a pattern, and the pattern has a shape, and the shape is almost unkind in how plain it is. 3 things happen to a team the instant it becomes champion. The first is that a winning squad ages together. The very players who lifted the trophy, the ones who understood each other without looking up, who'd spent years learning one another's movements, built a chemistry that takes years to grow, and the one thing running out for them is years. A championship core is usually a mature core. 4 seasons on, those same irreplaceable men are 4 seasons slower, and the understanding that made them great cannot simply be poured into fresh legs. You either bring the old band back and pray the bodies hold, or you break it up and lose the very thing that worked. The second thing is the target. Once you're the holder, every opponent treats the match against you as their own final. A side that might sit back against anyone else suddenly throws the whole house at you because beating the world champions becomes the proudest afternoon of their careers. The easy games vanish. You get everybody's best day again and again. And the third is the quiet one. You lose the freedom of having nothing to lose. The team that wins a World Cup usually wins it slightly off the radar, playing loose and daring, with the lightness of people no one expected anything from. Win once and that lightness is gone for good. Now there's weight on every pass, and the very expectation that lifted you the first time sits on your chest the second. An aging core, a target on the back, the freedom gone. That's the curse. And notice that not one piece of it is about a single player being too old. It's structural. It happens to the institution of being champions, whoever happens to be wearing the shirt. There's also a reason it has grown harder over time rather than easier. When Brazil pulled off the repeat in 1962, the World Cup was a smaller world. Fewer competitive nations, a shorter road, fewer landmines between you and the trophy. This tournament has 48 teams in it. The path is longer, the field is deeper, and the margin for a single bad afternoon is thinner than it has ever been. The feat didn't merely stay rare. The game itself kept making it rarer. Now hold that pattern up against Argentina and watch how snugly it fits. They kept 17 of the 26 players from the squad that won in 2022. 17. That isn't a refresher, that's the same band, back on stage. The DePauls and the Otamendis, the goalkeeper Emiliano Martinez, all of them battle-hardened and all of them 4 years older. There is the aging core, right on schedule. They entered this World Cup ranked #1 in the world on the 11th of June, among the favorites. And being the favorite is just a gentler word for the target everyone is aiming at. There is the bullseye, and the underdog lightness that helped carry them through Qatar. They are the defending champions now. By definition, that freedom is already spent. So when you watch this team, you aren't really watching a side that happens to own an aging star. You're watching a squad that matches the historical profile of the cursed almost line for line. And in the middle of it stands the man himself, who in his very first match of this tournament scored the first hat trick of his entire 23-year career and pulled level with Miroslav Klose as the all-time leading scorer in World Cup history. He has caught the record people assumed was out of reach, and the curse is still pressing down on the whole team around him. All of which makes it sound hopeless. So let me be honest and pull hard in the other direction, because the truth is never that clean. Here is the strange gift hidden inside that aging, experienced core. The very trait that leaves them exposed over a long month is the trait that makes them deadly in the one place that decides everything, the knockouts. 7 games, sudden death, a single penalty shootout away from the airport. That is not where you want youthful nerves bouncing around. That is where you want players who have already stood in that exact storm and didn't blink. Argentina's spine has been there. They won the shootout against the Netherlands in 2022, then another against France in the final. Experience ages a team, yes, and it also forges the calm that wins games balanced on a knife. The same quality as both the weakness and the weapon. And before anyone hardens the decline talk into a verdict, it's a fair view, worth taking seriously, but it is a view, not a fact. A man can be past his physical peak and still be the sharpest mind on the pitch. The legs slow long before the reading of the game does. And that opening hat trick at 38 was not the performance of someone the tournament has left behind. So if you've stayed with me this far, here's the real question I want to hand you, because this was never a prediction and I won't pretend to know how it ends. When you watch Argentina at this World Cup right now, while it's actually unfolding, you are not watching a man fight against younger legs. That was never the real contest. You're watching him take on something far older than any opponent on the grass, a pattern that has beaten nearly every champion for more than 60 years, broken exactly once, in a different century, in a smaller game. So I'll put it to you straight. Do you want history to hold, that elegant, brutal rule that says nobody repeats? Or do you want to watch the one player who has spent his whole life bending the impossible bend it one final time? Are you pulling for the record or for the man? Sit with that honestly, tell me where you land in the comments, and if you'd like to keep tugging on threads like this one together, you already know what that subscribe button is for. The curse is real, the maths leans against him, and somehow that has never been the point. The point is that he came back anyway at 38 to stand near the center circle one more time and ask the very question you're asking now. We just get to watch the answer arrive.